Thank you very much, Josephine. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. My name is Vimal Shah. I'm the chairman of Bidco Africa group, and we're a fast-moving consumer goods company in Kenya, and we go right from agribusiness to processing to getting farmers to, farm for us and collect all the produce, process it to finished products, branded products, and then distributing it all across Eastern Africa and in Africa. Well, I'd be biased because Kenya is my favorite number one, but I think overall Uganda has a very good environment, a very good investor-friendly environment that's really doing well, and we've got large-scale plantations there in Uganda, and really I think there's a very, very good offering with government and private sector doing PPPs. So we call it a PPPP, People, Public, Private Partnerships, and they're doing very well, whereby the government provides the land and the environment and the policy situation, and we handle the entire, production, outfits, the whole thing, financing, and it's working well. So I think Eastern Africa, as such, is a favorite. I'd call it East Africa altogether. Yeah, so I think the PPPP program in Kenya would work, but I think some of the P's in the public sector are missing because they're not proactive to get this concept. And I think they're going by a framework that is old. It's not worked because I think a lot of our government officers in Kenya really don't understand what a PPP is. There's a long history. I could go on for hours of that, but I think to cut it short, I would say being born and brought up in Kenya, myself, my brother, born in Nyeri, and my father born in Mombasa, all three of us together started this business. My father used to run a clothing factory called Bidco Clothing Factory, and we morphed that into Bidco Industries, Bidco Kenya, and Bidco Africa now. Originally it was called Bidco Oil Refineries, and all three of us together started this off. My father's chairman, myself and my brother as joint directors to make this happen, 39 years ago. Next year we celebrate 40 years. And I think together we started this journey. My father always wanted to be in agribusiness because when we were in Nyeri also, he'd bought a coffee farm in Thika and done quite a bit of stuff. But his goal and ambition was always happy, healthy living, and I think doing agribusiness. So with that in mind, we went for a full-fledged offering from the farm to the frying pan, and we said let's do the whole value chain. Initially, we started making it a big project, and wanted to make it all together. And having just come out of university, myself and my brother, USIU, we went around looking for financing, and we didn't have a business. We were a startup, right? Complete startup, SME, and went to banks after banks, and they said, "Yeah, look, young lad, do you have any experience?" I said, "No." "Have you ever done this before?" "No." "Do you have any funding?" "We don't have funding. That's why we're coming to banks to say, fine, give us some funding so we can start the project." "What do you have?" "We have an idea, we have a concept, and we have a vision that we want to make this happen." And they said, "Well done. If you had 40% equity, then we would finance you." And it was a major it was a big project at that time, and we didn't have the 40% equity. So went on to IFC where somebody advised us. The guy there was called Raghavan. He said, "Look, let me give you some good advice. Start small. You've got a very good long-term vision. Start small, start at one end, and then build it up on that." So either start at the farming end or at the consumer end. And that's the story we're continuing right now for 40 years. Started off with soaps, get the consumer facing, started getting raw materials, get the processing, do the branding, do the marketing, and then went backward into oils, getting the oils processed locally here. So 1985 to 1991 with the oil refining plant, put it up, set it up, and then expanded that. 98, we went backwards into oilseed crushing and getting local oil seeds, getting the farmers to start farming for us, contract farming, and get the value chain. And 2001, 2002, when Unilever was selling, they were selling their, it was called East African Industries then. They were selling their brands, Kimbo and Cowboy. We went and bought them out because we had a goal and a strategy. So that came on board. We also bought Elianto in Nakuru, where they were crushing, seeds locally. So we went into the crushing, backward linkages. 2004, we said, okay, now we've done that in Kenya. We went to Tanzania first, then we went to Uganda, and we did the plantation. So we've done it from the soil to the frying pan, all the way. And that's our journey continuing as we speak. I think it goes back to, in fact, I would say right now in 2025, we're at the best times ever because we've got so much going for this country. We've got so much going for the world. When we started off, can you imagine, there was nothing like internet. There was nothing like a mobile phone. It was all landlines. We used to go to the office for getting our messages. We had something called a telex machine where we could do contracts online. So I think when we've come a long way with that, we were at a time when we were a startup. I'm born in Kenya, educated in Kenya. I've never gone overseas for education. So Nyeri Primary School, High Ridge Primary School, Jamhuri High School, USIU, and that's it. Haven't gone overseas. So I think the point is, when I talk to a lot of youngsters, they can do it too. It doesn't mean you have to have this Harvard type of education or Oxford or Cambridge. We can do it here. And I think the point is having a vision. So at that time, we had a very clear vision and said, fine, this is what we want to do. And we started on that from step 1, step 2, going backward linkages. We're still doing that, right? And we looked at it and said, what do we need to do here? Keep on it, right? So the vision is there. And once you have a clear vision, you've got a strategy of how to do it. The how-tos can change. And that's where it morphed into, mergers, acquisitions, buying off companies. But financing at that time was not available as it is today. In fact, access to finance today is far bigger, far better for everyone. I mean, just look at the internet, look at the ideas you get. You can articulate any project online using AI today in a day. You can get all your facts and figures done. Well, I used to go to Macmillan Library. I used to go to libraries where even University of Nairobi Library to just get facts and figures. I think it's an amazing time to be alive at now. And a startup today has got an amazing opportunity. There's enough sources of funding. There's enough sources of people who want to do things. There's large pools of capital that are available. I just think that we're not articulating our mission, our goals in the right way. And that's where project preparation and all that stuff, I think we need to really get our youngsters to start looking at how to do it, right? Because every single field, it's just available. The levelizer is internet, because now you can post anything on YouTube or anything else on online and really become viral. It's not difficult. So I think if you said, we were in a lucky phase, I think right now, if I was a startup, I'd be saying, no, it's really much more luckier. And the markets have grown deeper. We've got bigger enterprises. The consumerism here has become even more bigger. At that time, it was like 1 or 2 monopolies and that's it, right? And then they had a distribution system set up that was so monopolized. It was difficult. We found it very difficult to break into the East African industries. They had blue boards everywhere and there were distributors. They wouldn't touch our product because they say, oh, we're with East African Industries. We had to start off completely differently. It was I call it a guerrilla move where we had to go around it and then go into the center. So I guess if one today is saying that we were in a luckier position, I would say right now, count yourselves lucky. I think it's a bit of both. It's a bit of not being prepared, not being well prepared, and also iterating, right? When you go to an Excel sheet, you iterate sheets. And based on that, if you look at what people can do is iterate with the funders, iterate your ideas, right? And then look for the right sources of funding. There are so many areas Traditionally, in our time, it was only a bank. You could only go to banks, and there were a few, right? Fewer, and they were pretty strong on what they wanted to do. Today, you've got banks, you've got financial institutions, you've got non-banking financial companies, you've got crowdfunding, you've got PE funds, private equity funds, who are looking for projects. You've got venture capitalists, you've got angel funding, you've got people who say, fine, do a chama, right? In a chama, they can start looking at things differently. And you can also appeal to private funds, right? Family offices are available to say, fine, what's a good project? I believe it's just articulation of the idea, articulation of how you're going to commercialize it and scale it up. I think the point is you will get different sets of investors. The type of investors you get at angel funding is like people who really want to help startups. They only do that. But after the startup phase, they will want to sell. And there's on-sell to people who are looking at round 1, round 2, round 3, and then it raise funding in that manner. And I think a lot of times what I've seen is youngsters want to make it big instantly to say, fine, I'll become a Safaricom. I'll become, Microsoft instantly. It's not going to happen. You've got to have this perseverance, consistency. And also, I think a lot of people look at what's your skill and ability and what's the team around you. And frankly, a lot of youngsters, I talk to them and say, oh, I got my idea, but I can't share it with anyone. This whole thing is secrecy that my idea cannot be shared with anyone. When your product is out there, that idea is out. And you will get the Me Too's who copy and say, fine, I can make it better. The people who come later can copy your idea and make it even better, right? So this intellectual property that, you've got to define it somewhere and put it together, including, people talk about patenting ideas. You just can't patent ideas in a way, right? So a lot of people go for patents. That patent becomes public. People see it. They just tweak it slightly and change it. So I've seen a lot of youngsters nowadays. They say, I don't want a patent. I just want to execute the idea. I think it's about smart execution and really starting on it and getting it done. At the end, there's got to be a customer. A lot of youngsters I talk to say, I've got this idea. I'm going to do this. Do it. Okay, fine. Who's your customer? Number one. What does the customer want? What's the customer lacking? KYC is know your customer, know your competitor. Whom are you competing with? Know your country, know your economics, know the policies, know even what hindrances you're going to get and the risks that you face. Identify them and have mitigants around them. And starting small. Iterated proof of concept at first. So fine, the concept works, start it up and then make it happen. When it started to work, people are going to say, okay, fine, that's a good one. Take it up. And you need small funding. Thereafter, once it works better and you got more customers, then you can raise more rounds. But a lot of times people say, no, I can't get funding. Firstly, they have an idea. They have intent. I have an intent and therefore I want to do this. I can't get funding. Excuse, right? And you can see so many who just executing. I've seen so many people who are not educated, but they're really executing so well that they don't look for these intellectual things about, I'm a startup and I'm doing all that stuff. So I guess we got to get rid of excuses. I think we've overcome the barrier. The earlier barrier was our elders would say, go get employment or go to government and look for a job, get a job because you don't want to be an entrepreneur. That old school, probably they're now in their 80s and 90s and passing on. And therefore, you don't have that issue as a hindrance. Before it was like you can't become an entrepreneur. Today, I think there's many possibilities. I mean, you got to look at, there's only two types of trade. One is either manufacturing or services, right? In the services area, you look at what are the gaps today. If you look at anything, healthcare, talk about IT, talk about services, where, even software as a service is being given. Apart from that, I think manufacturing has a lot of stuff that you can look at, different ideas. There's one university which is available for free for everyone. It's called YouTube University. A lot of them can go there and say, fine, how do I make this? How do I do this? It'll give you all the learnings. But then you got to make sure you execute on the ground. Now, to execute those ideas on the ground, you need to say, fine, who do I sell this to? Who's willing to pay for this service? How much would they pay for it? Am I competitive compared to others? Or am I thinking like, no, big boys will harass me? I feel sometimes it's the David and Goliath story, right? that, oh, you're so big and that's Goliath. But I think today with AI and with all these IT systems, the Davids can beat the Goliaths, and the Goliaths are now, as they will call them, elephants, right? And they say elephants can't dance, right? They move slower. They're not agile. So today, agility, morphing, and also iterating faster. Fail. If you fail, you fail fast. Iterate it and say, fine, now how do I pick up myself? A lot of youngsters I talk to, they say, oh, I started this idea, but I've given up. Why have you given up? Oh, it didn't work. So I'm dejected. I mean, that's learning. Use that failure as learning and say, fine, I need to do it differently. How am I going to change that course and make it happen? Consistency and persistency is missing in a few people. Some very youngsters, I've seen some youngsters who've done startups. They do a startup, then they do 4 or 5, and they're running 5 different types of companies, right? At young age. I say, fantastic, well done, but why don't you make 1 or 2 of them really big and make it happen? But they're trying to spread horizontally to say, I'll have many more ideas there. So I guess that's one thing where it's persistency, consistency, and see does that idea work or not. Number 2 is also marketing. I think a lot of people don't market their wares or products or whatever. And today with all this WhatsApp or whatever, things go viral, right? And you can make things work quite fast. The costs of doing business, the cost of doing a lot on internet have gone down. Although I would actually say that government's trying to attack all that and trying to put stops there and stuff like that. So I agree that regulation in Kenya and the region has become a big problem. But seriously, I just think that have an idea, have a vision, and have a goal and say, fine, who's my customer? Where am I going to sell this? What value am I adding to people? And how am I competitively better than my competitors? What's my competitive advantage to other people? Number 3, very important point is, am I making people aware of the benefits of using my system or whatever? And if you're just a me too, you're just copycat, you copied somebody's idea and trying to be a me too, then obviously you're going to get a lot of competition. And frankly, it's a VUCA world. Volatility is a given. Uncertainty, VUCA, is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's there. You can't go and say, I want a certain world. I want no volatility. I want a perfect world. We're never going to have that. I think I'll be very unpopular by saying the truth, and I don't mind saying it, because I think what is happening right now in Kenya is we've gone to over-regulation, right? We've gone back to colonial times, whereby the colonials were using licenses for everything. The license Raj, as they called it. In the license Raj, you needed a license for everything, even to do something, do not do something, because they wanted the local people not to get into that business or industry. And we've gone back to that. And our parliamentarians, our lawmakers are now putting in regulation after regulation after regulation just to regulate everybody in terms of doing business. I think if we want to be progressive, deregulate, remove all regulations. For SME startups, remove all regulations until they come up to a certain 20, 30, 40 million turnover, and then start looking at regulations in a different way. But we're just over-regulating. And there are licenses that are being asked for or given, and you'll have a wall full of licenses on your premises. And really, all you have to do is just pay the fee and get the license. They don't add any value. So startups, if you now put them and say, look, put 10, 15 licenses on your wall and then start up, they're facing a 300, 400,000 shilling cost just to get those licenses. Let's remove that. If we talk really about startup Kenya, we could do it in a different way. Number 2, a lot of the regulations are not really warranted. They are believing that everybody's a thief and therefore I need to regulate them. Everybody's non-compliant, I need to regulate them. Let's have self-compliance. The customer in the end is the one who rules, right? Mm. And I don't think we have uneducated customers anymore. People are very educated. They're savvy. They've got M-Pesa. They've got phones. They've got mobile phones. They've got internet to check and fact check everything. So I just think that we're putting on, because the legislators are too many. In fact, the size of government is too big. I don't think we need 349 parliamentarians in parliament, MPs. We probably need 100. Cut that size of government, get less regulation, deregulate, and then have a pie that's becoming bigger. Our total GDP as such is 110, 120 billion. Let's look at, say, fine, how do we grow that to 200 or 300 billion, right? That's not being discussed. What we're discussing is how to segregate, how to compartmentalize ourselves. In East Africa today, we are now 8 countries, and we're trying to say open the borders. But within Kenya, we've now got 47 counties which are acting as countries. And you need licenses in every county to even have your truck going around and delivering. How is a startup going to start off and say, I'm going from county to county and delivering, and they need a license for every county, just so that they can make, their own payments done? I just think that we're over-regulating. We're actually making the country into 47 different countries. And that's a wrong thing to do. I think we just need to reduce size of government, reduce size of the whole government size, and have more governance online. You can do a lot more regulation. In fact, people will start looking at self-governing, and the consumer will start looking at each other in a different way. So I just think that there's a lot more possible here. I would say to all regulators, look at how do we deregulate and how do we make it easy for people to do business. Our ease of doing business has become more difficult. Why? Because there's some sort of regulation which is unseen. And all they do is keep on passing these and saying approve them. I don't think half of them understand the impact. So if we did an impact analysis of all the regulations here, they don't add value to our youngsters or to our SMEs. How do we remove that? What do we need to do for that? I think there are 3 types of situations there. There's a whole issue of doing business with government, supplying government. And around that, you've got the whole thing called tenderpreneurs, right? The tenderpreneurs are becoming more and more agile, and they're actually getting linkages over there. And I think there's a gravy train there. So people are trying to double or triple their costs and pricing and making money and then parting with money there. I think that should stop. If what government has now pronounced that we're going e-procurement, go e-procurement and really get it done. Why is it not working yet? Right? So that way you make it transparent, number 1. Number 2, when they've already sold that product to government, now they can't get their payments out. For getting the payments out, they're actually having to pay somebody, right? I think it's just ridiculous. So overall, when you look at the whole act of doing business with government, I would advise all our young startups, stop, don't do business with government. Look at the consumers, look at where else can you give your services and where will people pay. Number 2, VAT and VAT refunds like that. When you look at KRA, I think first and foremost, we all need to be compliant. Goes without saying, every startup, everybody needs to be compliant. However, our systems that we put up should be easy, should be automated such that it doesn't have a big hassle around it. So when we roll out our ETMs or whatever, and we just roll it out and say it's applicable from midnight to night, I think we didn't educate everybody about it. We didn't get that whole awareness, and they're trying to do it now after implementing it. And then they're trying to struggle with that. But I think there's nothing wrong with having an automated iTax, ETM, eSIM, or whatever, really working well so that we are all compliant. Number 1. Number 2, make tax paying simpler. Today's become very, very difficult because the whole concept and the whole model has not been given. Everybody now is a tax collector for KRA, and you have to collect tax and pay it to them. And then if you're paying right now, the VAT refunds issue, it's private sector funding government and then asking for a refund. And the government thinks, no, we're giving this to you as a free donation or whatever. Wrong concept. Instead of that, just net off. So I just think that there's a whole reset required around this whole concept. Make it easy to do business with, and really, even for startups, make it far more simpler to get registered. The KYC can be done online, right? Get all that done. And I think really going online with it without having this problem of government going and buying 140 billion shillings worth of software. We don't see that. There's no value added in it. Today, youngsters don't need to buy software. You go to SaaS, right? Software as a service. You just pay for what you use. It's like your AI today. You just pay for what you use. And there's so much more possible there. We've got to spend money on the right things rather than on things that are not adding value. So I would advise to everyone is, look, if you're dealing with government as a whole different sector, you probably need a different code of ethics there. And the code of ethics that we need to use in business is make it simpler. And I think KRA has a lot of good people who are willing to really come out and help you. But we're not going there. And there's some rogues. The rogues will come out and harass you and say, fine, give me something, get it done. I've seen people getting away with murder at KRA, and then you got people who are compliant. So I just think that whole concept, we got to simplify. Having said all this, I just think that we've got to be, all of us have to be compliant, but compliant with a law that is progressive. Truly speaking, we need to be the most competitive country in Africa. We're not getting there. And I think the issue is not corruption. I think the issue is impunity. Impunity means that people can get away with corruption, get wrong things done, and there's nobody's going to touch them. Nobody's going to harm them. That gives a lot of our youngsters the values to say, fine, you know what? So-and-so did this and that, and he made some money. And therefore, you're telling me to go the right way? I don't need to. I just got a shortcut here, and I'll get it done. And nobody's going to touch me. And those are the heroes today, right? They're becoming heroes. And I think that's wrong worship. So we've got to make sure that we cut it, right? Number one. Number two, my advice to a lot of SMEs would be do the right thing. Because if you're a long-term player, you want to be here for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Look, businesses are born to be SMEs. You start small, become medium, become bigger, and grow that. You're going to be here for next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Governments will change every 5 years. So this speed bump we have right now in government, I think it's a short-term speed bump. We will get over it. The point is, how do you manage right now? Okay. Number two, think a long-term. Have a clear code of ethics and say, fine, I'll stand up for this. I mean, things like KEPSA or KM or whatever are there to say, articulate your issues, bring them to the fore, and let's do it collectively. Because if today you think I'm solving a short-term problem by giving a bribe here and by giving a bribe there, the culture you're setting is now the culture that your youngsters, your kids are going to have to bear with. You don't want that. In fact, what we got to do is repair that and say, fine, fix it. So code of ethics, I think we've got that now proliferating all over. We've got them all online. And really, if we all follow that, I would say one thing. If the private sector, all of them follow code of ethics and say, fine, we are stopping this. There's no way government can extort or enforce or take it away. You will have a segregation of people who start doing that. And then say, isolate them. And let them be isolated to show themselves as being non-compliant. It's the same as we do ISO standards in our companies. Wherever there's a non-compliance, you show it as an NC and say, these are the 10 NCs. Non-compliance, you are here, here, here. And here's an observation of what's not okay. Fix it. And if you don't fix it, we'll be in a problem. So I think that governments pronounce itself that we don't want corruption. We want to have a clean, with the talking. But I think the thing is about kusema na kutenda is two different things. Let's fix that. I think let's look at it as a household first. In a household, if the income is 100,000 shillings, the whole family income is 100,000 shillings, how much would the family spend? That's a question mark, right? Can they spend a million?
No.
Not possible. Would they borrow in order to spend a million?
Maybe not.
Maybe they borrow once, but then how are they going to repay that? So the question that I'm asking is that in a household, let's take that individual household, we cut our carpet to what we can afford. We cut it to that point. And we curb our expenditure based on our income, right? We do that in a household. We do that in a company. We do that in a kiosk. Any business person will say, fine, my income is X. I cannot go and spend 10 times more unless it's a capital investment, which you're now building on. Even that has to have a return. So when we look at a family and say, fine, 100,000 shillings, and if they keep on spending $1 million every month, in 1 year, what will happen?
You'll be bankrupt.
Is that the way we're running government today? That's the problem. So we've got to look at it and say, fine, how do we make our income bigger If I'm spending $1 million and I really need to have income of $1 million, then you're okay because you balance that, right? We're not doing that. And I think the focus needs to be on expenditure. So if I am faced with that, I can either raise my salary or raise my income from 100,000 to $1 million. Or I reduce my expenditure from $1 million to say I need to level it off to 100,000. It's so obvious for any person in any household to do it. Why not look at the company? Why not look at the country in that same manner? Whether it's a county, whether it's, whatever. When you look at that, public money needs to be administered in that manner. Today, we've seen spending going on and on, because that's a given. But who's looking at the productive parts and say, fine, how are we getting our income? We all delegate it to KRA and say, fine, KRA, go out and collect, they're getting targets. Everybody's going to target. Whichever way, they can just go and collect, right? Whether we have to refund later, they don't mind. So I just think that that's where we need to fix, right? So if we can't get our income to double or triple in the next 1 or 2 years, we've got to make sure we curb our expenditure. So that calls for expenditure curbs, austerity measures that talk about it. But when people see it, we see, how many Land Cruisers and how many people are just being lavish about everything. I just think there's a big need there. And I think when we move from the millions to the billions, and now we're going to the trillions in shillings, I think they look at it and say, oh, billion is easy. It's not difficult. But try and earn that. Try and get that done. And the productive parts are being missed. So when we look at our exports, when you look at our productivity, when you look at what are we doing to increase the size of the pie? If we could get all our government people, all the MPs fixed to say their salary will be linked to GDP growth. If there's a 5% GDP growth, they get a 5% increase. If it's 10%, they get 10%. Believe you me, the metrics we measure, everybody will start saying, I need to increase that GDP growth in order to get more pay. Right now, it's a free gravy train. And I think there's no questioning. Your auditor generals, other people are complaining, talking about it. But then where's the facts? There is also a fact that with the internet coming up, there's a lot of fake news and there's a lot of positive news. There's a lot of good things that government's doing right now. I don't think we should just downwash it and say, fine, it's not proper. But there's water, being poured over it all, and therefore the perception is becoming different. So the fundamental may be good. Look, our exchange rate has been stable. Fantastic, right? Our interest rates are now in single digits for treasury bills. Fantastic. So I think kudos to that. We've done well. The question is there enough trust in that longevity? Will that last, or is that a small mirage right now? And I think that's where the crux is. Number two is if we can just curb all our expenditures and say, fine, cut them and really make it austerity. Government's gone online to say we will make everything real-time online. Make it online. If you do it online, you can cut your costs completely. Are we really online? Do they try and send a letter, try and send an email, and then actually want a physical letter, a physical card? We're all still manual. So we're still analog as government, and we're trying to be digital. We're not. And I just think that needs to change. And if things like, all the healthcare and this and that, whatnot, if it's not fixed, we're not giving people value for their money. So I just think that these are things that can be fixed right away and say, we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In my company, if something goes wrong, I cannot say I'm the CEO, but, it's my guys who messed up. I take responsibility. In any organization like KEPSA, the CEO, the chairman has to take responsibility. In your own firm, if it's a small, medium-sized enterprise, you take responsibility for your company's actions or any of your employees. And that's what we got to fix, to say, fine, let's all take responsibility. We talked about haki yetu. We did in Kenya Daima. We said it was about haki yetu before. Now it's about wajibu wetu. What's our responsibility? So every single citizen, whether you're young, old, or in government or in private sector, wajibu wangu ni nini? What's my responsibility? What do I need to do? If we all take it up and say, fine, this is our responsibility, I think we can fix this together. Because when you see the pronouncements, when you see the speeches, when you see the way people are talking about it, finance bill may have 10 good things in it. But if it has 2 of the issues that affect them, that's highlighted and becoming very high. That communication gap is missing, is there. But then at the same time, right, if we said we want now get onto the payrolls of people and start attacking that and get 15, 20% of the payroll off, in my opinion, frankly, Increase the salaries by 20%. Then you levelize that. At least you've made it level. We didn't do that. And therefore, what we've done is just cut into it. So I just think there's simpler rules to fix what we need to have one unison, all of us working together. We still have better human capital. I think if you look at the whole of Africa, I'm proud to say that, Kenyans are probably some of the best, right? But we just got to fix this.
And you have said it before that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. We haven't lost it all. I would say to every youngster, everyone, including Gen Zs, don't try and be arrogant to say, I'm the only one and, we're the only ones. Look, there's a lot of wisdom in every old person. There's a lot of wisdom available, right? You may have the knowledge by using gadgets or whatever. That's just knowledge. But the wisdom is how to use that knowledge to get things done is available. So I think we just need to come together and say, fine, enough is enough. Let's stop, fooling ourselves because trust is being eroded. All we need to work is on trust. And trust is 4 things: intent, integrity, intent, competency, and results. If any of them is 0, we'll lose the trust. So let's get the integrity right. What we say and what we do must be congruent. Kusema na kutenda together. Intent. What is the intent? If the intent is to fix and become better, then what we say, let's make that happen. Competencies. If we don't have competencies, I think we have lots of youngsters who can bring that together and really pull together. Come together and say, fine, let's make it work. And then let's get results. Results means positivity. And we can change this around. I think any company, whether small, medium, large, or whatever, the crucial thing is it's the people. People are the ones who make things happen in any company. Whether it's company, association, organization, alliance, or even government, it's people. People and then culture. The culture around it. So we worked on the people and the culture. And the culture is one of happy, healthy living, right? And it starts with our people. They need to be happy. They need to be healthy, and they need to be living. Now, living means they need to be vibrant. And with that, we've got an aspirational mindset. We've got an aspirational goal, which is to grab, grow, and sustain #1 market share in the African markets by 2030. So we've got 5 years left. We need to really ramp up quickly. So that inspires everyone to say, fine, let's do better. So we've got this whole growth orientation, #1. #2, what we believe from day one, and 39 years now, is that we provide lunch for everyone for free, not tax on it. We also make sure that they're all okay. We also put in the right standards. We've got ISO 9000, which is about, quality standards. We've got ISO 14,000, which is environmental standards. We've got ISO 18,000, which is about occupational health and safety. ISO 22,000, which is about, good management practices. We've got SA 8,000, which is social accountability. We've gone for all global certifications that are world-class. And we've got all those. We're also members of the UN Global Compact. We're members of many organizations where we actually have standards. Those standards are set, but we go above them, right? So what we've done is made sure that our people all operate beyond those standards. So those are a given. That becomes your culture. That becomes the way we do business. So the way we do it is important. We have a code of ethics that can be downloaded online, right? Go to Code of Ethics, Bidco Africa, you'll get it. And we live by it, right? We don't pay bribes. We don't give anything under the table. And we've got everything above board. We don't do anything without tax, right? And the tax man, all that is real-time online. And therefore, we were able to computerize every single aspect. Today, we're real-time online. On my phone, we can tell right now what's happening, where it's happening, and people are accountable. So what we've done is we've removed the human element of saying, I make a report, I give it to the boss, give them a wrong report, I can massage my figures this way and that way. No, you can't. It's all transparent. It's open, right? When we have management review meetings, like we had one today, it's clear. Everybody's put on board and they actually report what they're doing. So that transparency, accountability amongst everybody, and having a peer group that is available, and them not feeling alone. We have a saying every day, the Kaizen pledge, alone I am weak, together we are strong. And we actually have that said by everybody holding hands together in a circle, so the energy is passed on to everybody. So if you get newcomers coming in, people who are 25, 30 years, 35 years with us, they'll all hold hands together and say, fine, here. And every person has to teach 3 more people to be as good as them. And that cascades all the way. So what happens here is there's no issue about, fearing that, tomorrow I could be off or I could be going somewhere else. No, even if you do, there'll be somebody who can pick it up. And therefore, the fear of failure is gone, number one. Number two, we allow people to make mistakes. Don't have a problem with making a mistake. But if you make the mistake first time, accept it. Second time, we need to check what's wrong. If they make the same mistake third time, then they've got a thickness problem. And then we tell them, look, fix it. Otherwise, there's action taken, right? So we allow that. Once you do that, you get innovation coming in. And everybody can have an idea. So Kaizen is something we practice. Kaizen practitioner, we're the ones who brought it to Kenya and really brought it together to say, fine, make it happen. And today under KM, there's a whole Kaizen practice that people can look for and make it happen. What that does is removes a lot of the non-value adding activities, which I think even Kaizen in government right now would be a big thing if we get that done. So we adopt all the standards. We have a culture, and the culture is one of being together, right? And doing it together, we've got new products just now. We bought 2 other companies recently, and we've got them on board. Our latest product is launching this week. It's the new breakfast cereals. We bought some other companies out. When multinationals are saying, let's bail out and let's go to other countries, we're right now saying, hey, let's take on more. So our people are now in that growth mode. And I just think that we're contrarians in that manner. But if you operate beyond on a better standards, you operate in a manner that's better, and you're here for long term. We're not talking about being politicians where we're like 5 years and gone and 10 years gone. We're here long term. I think today's Gen Zs, if they're inspired and if they're mentored in the right direction, they can do wonders. There's no doubt about that. However, they require a slightly different culture in terms of how they manage and what they do. But integrity, certain rules are non-negotiable. Integrity, what they say and what they do is congruent. A lot of them just tell you, I'm in this location, that location, but they're not telling you the truth. And I think that's where the culture becomes a negative. And once they can get away with lies and they get away with that all the time, you don't want them around, number one. Number two, those who say, look, I'm not in a need of a job, don't have hunger. If they don't have hunger, they're not going to work for you. So I just think that those people, you should tell them, go start your own. I think those could make very good entrepreneurs. Tell them, start up on your own, be your own boss. Then they'll realize what it means to have 5 people or 10 people or 6,000 people like we have, how to manage them and run them, right? So you got to have that. And ultimately, it's a culture that you set up. So I think the youngsters today have an amazing energy. We just need to tap it in the right direction and say, fine, here are the rules that change. And yes, we also change rules. It doesn't mean that what we did 30, 40 years ago is the same thing we're doing today. No, we're moving. This year, we're moving all to things to the cloud. We're starting to look at AI, rapidly changing. And we're sitting with the latest, because if you don't sit with the latest, you can't sit with old stuff and say, fine, we'll still get the results. If you keep doing the same things you've done for the last 30 years, you're going to get the same results. Now with a new culture, new generation, we can morph their culture into what you want. And that's company culture. So in an organization, you have a company culture, you make that fine. These things here, we do it the right way. I think it's clear as Bidco, we're in a growth phase. And, we've looked at what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to change. And we have a growth orientation, but we're very focused. We are going to remain in FMCG products and FMCG areas. FMCG means fast moving consumer goods. We're not shifting to banking and insurance and IT and all that stuff. No, we're focused on what we do best. And that's what we think is going to do very well for us. With that focus, we see a lot of people starting saying, look, we'll go out and get it from overseas or whatever. We're looking at JVs, we're looking at startups, we're looking at new products and more adjacencies to the same consumers. So with that, we see a lot of people not having the wherewithal to stand with it. There are even some startups that, would say, fine, here. So we bought over a startup and took it over. And they said, fine, because we can do much better with it. So we're still in a growth phase. I think the 2 things that are important is over leveraging. A lot of companies are leveraged to a level where they can't even pay debts. We've gone away from debt. We just don't want debt right now. So we've gone away to capitalize the company. We believe in it. Number 1. Number 2, I think alternative sources of capital, investor funds, is probably what we'll look at going forward. And maybe, in 5 years' time, we could go public on a global scale. But yeah, I don't rule that out, because becoming more and more bigger, we need to invite investors. We need to invite more M&As. That activity will keep on. I think gratitude, number one, is gratitude for all our consumers across East Africa, because they're the ones who own the company. They're the ones who own our products. And having been homegrown here, I just think that we've got to get this belief in all our people, all Kenyans, to say, fine, even Kenyans can do better. We can be world class in Kenya. We can do things that are globally competent, and we have the competencies. Let's just align all that together and make it happen. And really, speak truths. Important thing is to say the truth. Speak truth to power. If somebody's doing something wrong, let them know about it. But overall, all is not lost. And I just think that one thing that's important is Kenya is still a shining example of how to do it. We may be learning right now in terms of government or even Gen Zs or whatever, what to do and what not to do. And that's a learning that we got to keep. But we shouldn't lose hope in what we're doing as a country. And I just think that Kenyans will go globally and will still prosper. So I just think that culture, that ethos that we have of the entrepreneurship in Kenyans, let's unleash it and let's keep on doing it and let's help each other.